50 hours of practice film on Michigan's computers. We're going to get into that. A lot of saucy stuff is coming out right now. Ryan Day had his press conference today. It said his normal nothing. Jim Knowles talked. Again, nothing. It's all eyes on Minnesota. Everybody's worried about Michigan. So we're going to get into all that. Take your questions as well as we come down the stretch. A couple of health issues for the Buckeyes. Lathan Ransom looks like he's out. My call is probably going to be held this week. We're going to break all that down. As always, we appreciate you guys. If you guys have a super chat, it is answered immediately. So if you guys have a question that you're dying to know about, send us a super chat. We pause the show. We answer it immediately. So this has been a great system. It's been working for us for the last couple of weeks. It's been awesome for everybody. So you guys bring awesome questions. So we appreciate that. If you enjoy this content, please click like right now. Also click subscribe and click the little alert bell so you get the alert when we go live about 7 o'clock every single night. That as always, we appreciate you guys so very much. This show has been fantastic and we are booming right now. So thank you for all of your entertaining questions being a part of this. Shout out where you guys are watching from. And let me know, is the team going to be focused for Minnesota? Are we going to blow the brakes off of them? Or are we going to be looking ahead to Michigan? I'd love your opinion on that. Put that in the chat. That being said, I'm going to go to my favorite Golden Gopher, Mr. Nevada Buck. Nevada, again, we have another bye week, essentially playing the Minnesota Golden Gophers. One more week before the grand showdown with Michigan. How are you feeling this week? Ryan and Jim Knowles did their normal Tuesday vanilla pudding deal that they do, where they really don't say anything. They mentioned my call's probably gonna get held this week. Lathan's out, until probably the playoffs. But your thoughts on where the team is health wise, and then we'll get into that Michigan server deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the team's sharp, and they're playing their best football of the year right now. It's a great time to be peaking. Last week I was, kind of undery and definitely not liking Ohio State, laying the points. I think this week, Ohio State's going to cover the spread. I think Ohio State's going to crush Minnesota. Obviously the only question mark is really the fact that we have a quarterback situation where you're not sure about the health of the backup and what you're going to do in the case of McCord. How long do you play him? Last thing you want to do is get him hurt in the second half of a meaningless game against Minnesota. So look, I feel really good. I think the team's focused, team's playing well. And I think for the first time all year, I feel like they've got an offensive scheme, that they've got an identity. They know what they want to do, and defensively they continue to be clampy. And the injuries don't worry me at all. Nothing bad. I mean, the Ransom thing is unfortunate, but we got guys upon guys, and Lathan. I tell you what, once we beat Michigan, I'll predict Lathan will come back and play in the Big Ten championship game. So it's not a super long term thing. I think he could be back, and so relatively good shape, all things considered.
Do you think, again, like the Big Ten championship? I mean, I honestly, I'll be real. I don't know if it's who's coming out of there. I don't know if it's Iowa or Wisconsin. I haven't really been paying attention because I really don't care. Would you hold them for that game? Because I mean, Michigan, obviously, you can't hold anybody back, but it's weird to say you'd hold them for the championship game. But the Michigan game is the Big Ten championship game. The winner of that game will win the Big Ten. It won't be close. They'll cover the spread. Would you risk playing Lathan in a Big Ten championship game?
Well, I mean, I think if you understood the nature of his injury, I think that it would be okay. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Now, again, we'll see. It's a long way between now and then, and logic dictates you want to be careful with that because of what happened with Jackson Smith and Jigba last year, and we all know how that ended up. So that was less than optimal. I'm sure they'll be a little bit gun shy with it, but the good news is it's not like it's a season ender. It's not like it's a guaranteed, hey, we're not going to see Lathan again until 2024. There's definitely a path to getting him back on the field, and that's always a good thing.
So the Big Ten West right now, I mean, it's Iowa. I mean, I was who we're going to see 8-2 overall, which is crazy. They already fired their OC. In the conference, they're 5-2. I mean, I think they have it clinched. I mean, they're 8-2 overall, 5-2 in the conference. Like, I don't think anybody can catch them in the Big Ten West. So it looks like the winner gets Iowa. They can't score points on error. Like I said, it's hard to imagine a team's 8-2 and they've already fired their offensive coordinator at 8-2. And again, this isn't like Penn State, who's like a juggernaut. This is a team that they struggle to score points, but for Iowa, 8-2 is really good. I mean, Penn State obviously had national title aspirations, didn't happen. So it looks like we're going to be seeing Iowa, which again, they are not scary at all. I would not play Lathan in that game. I wouldn't really play anybody outside of Trey and the guys you had to. In terms of Michigan, you had a very interesting tip about the film. It's interesting. The U.S. integrity thing is really catching fire today across the internet. Because again, you pointed that out. God, it had to have been 5, 6 days ago, when we read the legal report that U.S. Integrity is involved in scanning hard drives and checking the betting patterns. Talk a little bit about that, and then blossom that into the fact they found practice footage on Michigan computers.
Well, again, we're trying to give you, we talk about this every night on the show. We're trying to make you guys smarter fans, better fans, more intelligent fans, fans that can kind of talk to your buddies and know more than those buddies out there. And so we don't want to deal in these crazy, like when you read this Michigan stuff, I mean, it's literally insane. It's like, we're going to leave the Big Ten Conference. We've got a binder of stuff. We've got a dossier we're waiting to drop. Ryan Day's brother was involved in the investigation. I mean, just like all this stuff that's just utterly nonsense. So we want to try to give you guys facts that you guys can deal with, tell you what we know, tell you what we don't know. So as for the U.S. integrity thing is an ongoing thing. We've talked about that. We broke that, many days ago. Now everybody else is kind of catching up with that. But that's an angle to continue to look at. But another angle to continue to look at is in the investigation of Weiss's computer, they found Ohio State practice footage on the cloud that Weiss was accessing, that other members of the Michigan staff were accessing. Now, that in and of itself, to me, is not a crime. The crime would be, how did they get it? And I think that's the question, and I think that's the interesting thing that we're going to be keep an eye on is how did they access this? How did they get this? Because, somehow they had access to Ohio State's, servers, whatever you want to call it, whatever the situation you want to be. They were in there. They were downloading information. They got it. They passed it around. And, that has not come out yet, but that will. And I think, from an NCAA standpoint, I've been asked, well, is that an NCAA violation? I don't believe just having it is an NCAA violation. But if you access it via unauthorized, methods or methodology, then that's a crime. And I think that's why this stuff hasn't come out yet. You've got an active investigation going on Weiss that's involving sex crimes against minors, illegal computer access, or computer access crimes. I want to correct it to make that right. But this is something to watch for because that was there, that was being used, and how did it get there? I think it's going to be interesting to watch that story develop.
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of the fascinating things. I think that and the gambling aspect are the two big things to me. Is like, how did that get there? What did they pull from it? What did the practice film show? Again, there's a lot of practice film. Like, again, I worked in the building for 5 years as a player through. So it's like there's stuff that you could get a lot from. There's stuff that's completely worthless. There's drill tape that doesn't mean anything. There's signals that mean a lot. So again, what did they have on the hard drive? Because it's not just they had 50 hours of tape. What was the precise 50 hours of tape that they had? Because again, if it's just like from spring ball and they're playing, 12 weeks into the season, that's not very valuable. If they had tape from like the week that they played, that is exceptionally valuable, where it's like, oh, they've got the 3 practices leading up to the Michigan game where they can see exactly what defense they're expecting and what kind of scout team stuff they're doing. So, that would be easily the most valuable tape you could get, is if you get the week of film, of the opponent. This is what their scout team is doing. This is what they're projecting you to do. This is what they think you're going to run on defense, what you're going to run on offense. And you could basically break tendencies that way. And I think that'd be very valuable. I think that, if they had drill tape from like spring ball and, training camp, like that's completely worthless. Those are just, because the thing about like football is the team that we had in August, like during training camp to now, is like it's like 180 degrees. It's like a completely different squad. There's guys that step up, guys that step down. The scheme changes dramatically. Guys get hurt. So, but the stuff this week would be very interesting. Nevada, again, the U.S. integrity thing is something that I just don't think gets enough run, but it is it's very interesting. Do you think that is going to be the next big deal? Is that going to be like the next big breaking story? Because again, we've been on this, and it's surprising it's starting to catch fire a little bit. But man, it's a hot deal. Because again, that's the thing that I think that's like the big anvil that's going to drop is the gambling thing. Who was gambling? What were they gambling on? Inside information. Again, like that was something that you've seen throughout college football. The guys at Iowa State got suspended for parlays and betting on their own team, and the dude from Iowa bet the under, and then he scored the touchdown to actually get the over, which is like the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, Do you think that's going to be the big story when all the dust settles?
Yeah, well, I think what you're going to find is that there were people up and down the Michigan food chain that were involved in that, and I'm talking
Yeah.
about players, active players, former players, staff. Um, they were involved, and to a lot of people, it's harmless. It's daily fantasy. It's harmless. It's not betting. And again, we're not trying to go out there and say Michigan was throwing their games or go out there with any of that hyperbole and stuff, but there appears to be really good information that there were gambling cookies up and down that were being accessed and utilized by a number of different people on the Michigan staff. And so,
Yeah.
when you can, tie people to stuff like that, the NCAA takes that very, very seriously with the proliferation of legal gambling. And you've seen how hard they've come down to people when they've been able to prove that they just were gambling at all. So, yeah, I think that is the next thing to break, unless, I mean, it's kind of a race, unless there's, a link to the coordinators that's broken before that, because that could involve Big Ten action immediately. I mean, everything that we're talking about here with the gambling, I think is more in the purvey of the NCAA, and so I think it's going to be kind of a race, but it's going to be interesting to see how this stuff breaks. The big governor on all of this is the criminal investigation that's going on, and why Weiss's computer is part of that, and how that kind of slows things down just a bit.
Yeah, I totally agree. Got our first super chat. Appreciate you, Firebird Gamer. This is a great question. Well, the Big Ten president evidence will we present evidence, excuse me, at the hearing on Friday, and will that be made public? Nevada, the hearing on Friday is going to be another spectacle. What do you expect to come of that? Again, Jim Harbaugh says he's going to be a part of it. Do you expect anything to come of it? Do you think that there's going to be an overturn? Again, I'm not trying to pin anything on you because again, we don't know what bells and whistles are going to get thrown at the Big Ten or vice versa. But as of today, do you believe that the restraining order will be granted, or do you believe that it will not?
This is so tough because it's like now we're into the legal realm, and we deal in the business of inside information, and we're pretty good at it. We don't get everything right, but we're pretty good at it. Now
Mm-hmm.
you're getting subjecting to the legal realm. I personally don't think they're going to get the TRO. I personally don't think Jim Harbaugh is going to have the opportunity to speak. I don't believe there's a mechanism for him to be able to get up there and speak at this thing. But I could be wrong. I'm sure that we've got more capable people on our board or part of this chat that could speak to that in terms of TRO. But I just don't see it. I think the basis of a TRO is irreparable harm. You have to be able to demonstrate that you're being harmed. Not only that you have a likely, very likely to succeed on the merits, which I don't see any way that that's true. But
Yeah.
then you've got to go to irreparable harm, which is harm that's so unique, so long lasting. And the bottom line is Harbaugh's been suspended already for 4 games this year, and they've won every game. So
Yeah.
that would seemingly fly in the face of it's irreparable harm. If this happened, we couldn't survive. Well, you've survived 4 times already with it without suffering irreparable harm. So I think any right-thinking judge is going to see that rule that way. And frankly, I think at this point, I think Michigan sees the inevitability. I really believe that a lot of this, their posturing, their public comments, the fighting, there is all kabuki theater. I think it's all just
Yeah.
nonsense. And
Yeah.
and I've been of that opinion since day one. On it. I think it's so over the top and so obviously transparent, and it's just none of it rings true. It has none of it. When you listen to this stuff, I'd ask people, does it seem authentic to you? Do you really believe that
No.
they authentically believe that they're the victims and we did nothing wrong? What was it? Like, guys, if all this was about was Connor Stallions on the sideline, dressed as a Central Michigan coach with spy glasses at night, recording Michigan State signals, then you're already done. And that is a fact not in dispute. Everybody knows
Yeah.
that. There's not a person in the world that believes that wasn't Connor Stallions. So
Mm-hmm.
look, I think that I think that they're going to lose the temporary restraining order, and I think they're okay with it. I think for them, I think that views in their mind it gives them kind of the moral high ground, and it's like, see, even if we lose or something bad, it's because Tony Petitti was mean and he took away our coach, and that's why we lost the game. And it wasn't because we were cheating and having to pay the price for that, but they were mean to us, and they're cheating. So I think they actually want it to happen. I really do believe that, and I think this fighting's just all for show.
Yeah, I totally agree. Tater Buck, another super chat. Appreciate you guys. Super chats are answered immediately. So if you guys have a question you're dying to know, send it our way. Tater chat, thanks for the 5. It sounds like a troll, but hearing the NCAA is offering immunity to players that will talk. Your thoughts? Can a player be in trouble for this? Well, I don't know how a player. I mean, obviously the players knew something was up when you've got the little Geppetto Connor signs, like, pointing at the sky and run past, and the players eventually, like, I mean, a lot of players are dumb, but they're not that dumb when a little guy that's a nobody is telling them, hey, point to the sky to signal. So, and all those guys are jumping around like idiots. But I don't know what the players would know. I mean, I was a player, obviously at Ohio State, then I was a coach at Ohio State, and there's a very distinct line between like what the players have access to and what the coaches have access to and what they would know. And like players aren't in there like surfing around on the hard drives like the coaches are. They're not privy to grade sheets or privy to some internal film stuff. So the players can watch practice film and they can watch game film and stuff, but there's like there's a lot of stuff that players either don't have access to or they wouldn't know how to access it. Like when you're a coach, like you've got to go to all these drives and you can really get down into the archives. But so I don't know if Weiss had stuff on his computer. I don't know how players would know about it, have access to it or anything. But again, that's just my opinion. Nevada, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think again, my information is that the player immunity, the reason that they're discussing that is really involving more about the gambling and about who knew what and what, because again, as you mentioned earlier, there have been college football players that have gotten hit pretty hard for doing stuff and from seemingly harmless gambling, gambling that may have involved their team, may not have involved their team, might have been pools, might have been daily fantasy. But that's what I understand that's about. And, we'll see. I think, when you've got the NCAA in on an expedited, I mean, think about the extraordinary steps that the NCAA came into Michigan on an expedited, I mean, literally, this thing broke. They were in Michigan the next week, okay?
Yeah.
Within 10 days of that, they shared their findings with the commissioner of the Big Ten, saying this is what we know and this way. I mean, you guys have to put that in historical perspective. This has never happened before. And so I know people want more. I know people feel like that the punishment should be more. We all agree with that. But man, think about how fast this is happening. This is happening at absolute warp speed. If you'd have told me when this first thing started, hey, the NCAA is going to be in there in a week, and within 2 weeks they'll have a report to the Big Ten talking about what they know and can prove, and there'll be a suspension handed down, I would have been like, no freaking way. Just absolutely. It just doesn't work that fast. But it did. And that's to be applauded. That's a step in the right direction.
No, I totally agree. I think that, again, anyone that's been involved in the legal process, they know that it moves like an absolute glacier. It's the slowest thing in the entire universe. And the fact that this was so severe and it demanded so much attention, like the NCAA actually got off their hind ends and went and like got there quick, and the Big Ten acted to try to save some of the integrity of the league. Like, it shows how bad this was. And again, like, I think just as it gets deeper, the worse it's going to be for Michigan. So, but I think the immunity thing is interesting, but I don't know what the players would really know, honestly. It's not like, it'd be one thing if they said they're offering immunity to like the coaches, but like Connor Stouts allegedly didn't even, he just refused to cooperate, which basically like ends his career forever, in college football. He's never going to be allowed to coach. He's going to have like an eternal show cause because he didn't cooperate at all. And it's funny because like Michigan right now, they remind me of USC when they were about to get smacked, like when Pete Carroll got out of Dodge, like in 2000, maybe 9-ish, 10-ish, and he took the golden parachute to the Seahawks. And like, I mean, I remember their athletic director was like locking the doors on the NCAA, not allowing them to search stuff. And, then, they got hammered. They got, hit with scholarship reductions and everything. But like, they were like acting how Michigan's acting right now, where they're just like denying everything. They're not cooperating. They're, erasing stuff. And I think that's the worst course of action. Cause I think that like if you cooperate and plead for mercy, then you at least have a shot where they won't drop the hammer of God on you. Speaking of hammer, Charles the Hammer, appreciate you, man. Thank you for the 5. I'm a lawyer. I assume they'll get it because of reasons, but they shouldn't. They have won without him. So as the Vadebook says, there isn't any harm. I think it's going to be fascinating because I think, it's in Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor judge. The judge is like teaches at the Michigan Law School. So it's about as favorable of a jurisdiction as you could ever get in your life. But, I mean, it's Michigan against the world. So, does he grant it? And then there's a public outcry and then they go to a more favorable jurisdiction for the Big Ten. I don't know. It's kind of like, it's like a game of chess at this point, but, I would be surprised if it was granted. What about you, Nevada? I mean, at this point, I honestly don't care because I'm to the point now where it's like I want Harbaugh on the sideline when we play him. I don't want any excuses. I don't want any asterisks, whatever. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I absolutely want him there. And like you said, I mean, what a major upset if he doesn't get it. You couldn't have a more favorable jurisdiction. The first judge had to recuse himself because he actually played football at Michigan. And so, like, everybody there, is part of the cult. They got to do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it would take a pretty courageous person not to do it. But I think the fact that it didn't get heard right away, it wasn't granted right away, certainly gives me hope that there's some rationality in this entire process. So we'll see. Now, I do want to put on a related. This is involving lawyers and this whole process, but this is a fun fact for everybody out there. Did you know that when Connor Stalions, the whole Connor Stalions thing, when he resigned, for those of you that didn't know, part of the reason he was, we all know why he resigned, but he resigned because they were asking him to cooperate and, sit for an interview and he absolutely refused to do it. Would not agree with the NCAA, which again, as you mentioned, doesn't sit well with the NCAA. No. So he kind of resigned and tried to bail out. Do you know in his resignation letter, the lawyer, obviously the one that the lawyer drafted, they misspelled his name. They misspelled his name in the resignation letter. So it's like, what type of law firm did he have that like misspells their client's name in his resignation letter to Michigan? I just thought that just kind of sums up this whole thing. In my opinion, what a joke, what a complete, like, just clown show this entire thing has been. They misspelled Stallions.
Well, isn't Stallions? I mean, is it just like a regular stallion? It's not spelled differently, right? It's like 2 L's and whatever, or is it?
No, it's one L.
Oh, it's that's one what L. I would have spelled it too, so I'm glad it didn't hire me. But I was thinking,
well, if you were his lawyer, man. First of all, Bert Carton was the lawyer. If he rolled into it, like, this is my lawyer, Bert Carton, I'd be like, dude, just like take the plea at this point. Whatever they throw at you, just take it, just accept.
We want a TRO. Give me a TRO, quick. Stat.
A TRO on toast, please.
Yes. God. No, yeah. I mean that is. I mean, it's every day. It's just a little bit more entertaining. Casey, appreciate you for the 5, my man. Is it concerning how well Rutgers ran the ball against us? Is there a chance for Ryan Day leaves for the SEC or the NFL? I'm not advocating for that. It's always a little concerning when you get beat down. I think Rutgers is actually pretty good. I don't think that they're the patsies that people make them out to be. But, I just, everyone when Greg Schiano was here, that guy took an absolutely insane amount of abuse for that 18 defense that gave up 80 million points. And we see how bad Alex Grinch is. I mean, Alex Grinch is absolutely horrendous. Fired in the middle of the season to SC. He was terrible to Oklahoma. And Greg Schiano is, I think, honest to God, and people are going to think I'm crazy, in the right circumstance, is a top 25 coach in the country. I mean, dude, he's 6-2 at Rutgers. Rutgers is like one of the worst programs in America. And when he shows up there with the people he knows, and I don't know if he knows like Paulie Walnuts or Christopher Maltasanti or Tony Soprano or Uncle Junior, but when he shows up, he makes those guys play exceptionally hard. And again, those guys, their left tackle is a guy that I'd take in the portal tomorrow because he's like 380 pounds, mauler, big old boys, monsters. And that was their Super Bowl. And I talk about this all the time. When you play at Ohio State every single week, you have one Super Bowl when you play at Ohio State. It's the Michigan game. But for every other team you play, you are their Super Bowl. So, I mean, you got to get your mind right to get ready for like 12 rounds versus some of these teams. And on paper, you should blow them out and kill them. But those guys are trying to make it to the National Football League. Some of those guys are juniors, seniors. They want to get on the radar. And they know if they have a splash day versus Ohio State, that's the tape that NFL scouts and GMs are going to watch. So, we would play teams and they would play out of their mind, over their head, absolutely crazy. And people were like, oh, well, Ohio State stunk. It's like, no, we played down and they played way up, and then it's a closer game than it should be. Now, again, that's the talent that Ryan Day has. He's blown out most of those teams because he has so much superior skill. But I don't know. I really like Greg Schiano. I think he's a fantastic coach. Is there a chance Ryan Day leaves to the SEC or the NFL? Yeah. I mean, I now am I advocating for it? No. But I mean, Ryan Day is one of the hottest commodities in coaching. You know, if I'm Robert Kraft or I'm an NFL guy or I'm Texas A&M, like I don't know how many guys I would realistically take over Ryan Day. Ryan Day's young. He's a quarterback, absolute guru, wizard. Maybe Kirby Smart in college. I mean, Nick Saban's kind of at the end of the rope. I mean, obviously, if you can get Saban for 5 years, you do. But Saban's, I mean, he's 70-ish years old. So, I mean, if I'm, building a program, I want to build it around an obscenely good quarterback developer, and I'm going after Ryan Day. If I'm A&M, he's my number one guy, and I'm offering him $150 million and whatever. But, would he take that? I don't know. I mean, the SEC West is an absolute monstrous conference, and the Big Ten is going to be much tougher with SC and Washington and Oregon, but it still ain't the SEC West, especially now they're adding Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, that's going to be absolutely insane. But like I always, in the back of my head, if someone put a gun to my head and said, Kirk, if Ryan Day ever leaves Ohio State, he might not. He might coach here for 100 straight years. But if he ever did, what job do you think he'd take? I say New England, because that's where he grew up. Robert Kraft has got infinite money. It's a great franchise. They've got, and they need to develop a quarterback. When you're one of these NFL franchises, these guys spend all this money on these quarterbacks. Like Kyler Murray's making $250 million or whatever. Like if I'm spending that, if I'm drafting Caleb Williams, number one overall, I'm hiring Ryan Day. I don't care. Ryan Day he's a proven commodity. He's the best quarterback developer in the entire country right now. And he runs a more coherent program, more cohesive program than Lincoln Riley, who's probably the number two. Just because he put in Kyler and Baker and those guys. He had a bunch of Heismans, Jalen Hurts. But I think Ryan's as good as there is in the country, especially given his youth. But your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, SEC, no, never, ever happen. NFL, yeah, for all the reasons, and obviously we don't need to mention. I mean, C.J. Stroud is having the greatest rookie season that a quarterback's ever had in the history of the NFL. And so it clearly references the fact that he was developed well. He was, under Ryan Day's tutelage. And as you said, that position's, 80x important to NFL owners. Yeah. And you've got these franchises that are worth $5-6 billion right now. So what's more important? What's a more important attribute for your head coach than to be able to guy that can develop quarterbacks? Absolutely nothing. So frankly, I don't want to jinx it, but I'm shocked he's still at Ohio State, given the amount of money that's potentially going to be thrown at him, down the road from NFL teams. And I that's why I'm going to enjoy every season that we have him, because I just think, I think ultimately that's where he's got to go. I think the monies that they're going to offer him is just going to be so incredibly obscene. I mean, if they're offering him $25-35 million a year, which could happen. I mean, when you've got quarterbacks that are making $50, $60, $70 million a year, you're not going to pay your coach half of that. I think these guys are going to do it. And like I said, Ryan's he's a great coach. He's a great attribute for Ohio State. And, let's enjoy him while he's here. So, we don't just speak, kindly about him when he's gone. And, great coach for Ohio State, and we're lucky to have him.
Okay, so I got a quick, I'm going to get into these super chats in 1 second. I got a quick question I want to ask you. So say the entire National Football League is blown up, and every player is now, it's a draft, and every player is available in the draft, and you run the Las Vegas Nevada Bucks, and you have the number one overall pick, and you can take any player in the entire NFL, just the NFL, not in college, no Caleb Williams. How many guys, I'm thinking in my head, obviously Mahomes would be the first guy I'd take, maybe Herbert. But then, I mean, how many guys do you take before C.J. Stroud? Because again, I just, if you're building a franchise and, C.J.'s like 21 years old or whatever, 20 or 21, so he's 6 or 7 years younger than Mahomes. So, I mean, you might even consider, it's almost insane to say that out loud, that you consider taking C.J. over Mahomes after he's got the rings, but he's 7 years younger and he's got a much bigger upside. Mahomes, we kind of know what he is. He's, one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks to ever play. How many guys, if you're starting an NFL team today, would you take over C.J. Stroud?
Well, I mean, now I'm the owner. I'm the owner of the Las Vegas Nevada.
You're the owner, and you can start your team with one player in the NFL, like any player.
I'm telling you right now, I'm not taking any player that has Brittany Mahomes attached to him in any way. Have you met Brittany Mahomes? Brittany Mahomes is like the most annoying person on the face of the planet. And the only person that's
Oh
that's
God.
more annoying than Brittany Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes' brother. And so the two of them up there
Oh.
dancing with Taylor Swift and just like, no thanks, man. I will take my chance with a CJ Stroud
CJ.
and I'll roll the dice and do it. But I am not thinking you can have your Brittany Mahomes thing up there, Burke. But I'm not. I don't want
So
anybody.
would you take CJ number one overall?
Yes,
Yeah.
without
Yeah,
hesitation.
I mean, honestly, like the only other guy I could say other than Mahomes is Herbert. I mean, because Herbert's young, but I mean, CJ is like 3 or 4 years younger than him. So I mean, that's a long runway. And plus, he's on that rookie contract. I mean, that's like very appetizing. All right, we got Charles the Hammer again. Appreciate you, my man. Thank you for the 10. I hate hearing, even from local sports guys, don't listen to them. They're terrible. The punishment, quote unquote, appeased both sides. Period. BS. If you ground a kid, isn't meant to appease the kid and parent. This isn't an agreement. It's a punishment. Nevada, what are your thoughts on that? 'Cause I don't think again, Michigan's not appeased by Harbaugh missing the game. I mean, this is supposed to be a punishment. Like, you're not supposed to like meet him in the middle. This isn't like a union negotiation. This is like, hey, you guys got caught cheating egregiously. You cost people their jobs. You cost CJ Stroud 2 Heismans because you guys cheated. You're going to get smacked. This isn't like, oh, hope you're okay with this discipline. What are your thoughts on that? Because I mean, I don't like Michigan's appeased. Maybe they didn't drop the hammer on him, but it is what it is.
Well, look, you saw Sharon Moore crying, and also, I mean, none of the Michigan fans feel like they got off thing. And again, for everybody, none of us are happy with this. If this was the end point of this, I'm telling you, I would be driving the bus and we'd be, going, storming Big Ten headquarters and doing whatever we could do to occupy. But this is the appetizer, man. This is the opening bid in terms of this whole thing, and it's going to get worse. It's just a matter of when. It's going to get worse for them. This is as good as it gets for them in terms of their situation right now. And as a Michigan fan, I mean, it's going to be terrible going forward. You've already completely destroyed your brand. You've destroyed the whole. I mean, imagine somebody coming up to you talking about the Michigan manner, the Michigan way of doing it, or our academic standards, or our commitment to excellence, or whatever. I mean, it's an absolute joke now. So, and I know people want more than that. We all want more than that, but completely destroying the brand they've spent over 100 years since fielding point-a-minute Yost. I mean, they effectively did that in like 3 weeks time. And, for me, it's glorious. And I know that the best is yet to come as an Ohio State fan. So no, I don't think they got away. I don't think it was about appeasing. I really believe that the commissioner thought and was advised. I know that he was advised that the Four Corners was responsibility to lay with contests. They couldn't do more than that. And, he went for a major penalty to the joint committee. The last thing he wanted to do was go to the joint committee and ask for 4 or 5 games and have them reduce it. So he went with 3, and they got hit, and they got hit in record time. They got hit, they got hit hard. And no, I don't think anybody's appeased, but I think it's I think it's as good as it's going to be for Michigan fans. So if you're not happy now, man, you better adjust your expectations because it's going to get a lot worse.
No, I totally agree. Dub V Buck, I appreciate you, brother. As always, Connor doesn't need a future. Thank you for the 5 coaching job because he and Blake are going to fall back on that vacuum sucking job on the porch. Again, that was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my entire life. The fact that like this guy had like enough used vacuums on like his front porch of a $500,000 house that like he got sued by the homeowners association. And again, like that's, I mean, if you've ever dealt with a homeowners association, like they're not like, I mean, they can be crazy. They're wild a little bit, but it's like, they usually give you like 2 or 3 warnings. They're not trying to go right to a lawsuit like immediately. I mean, they got to give you like one warning, second warning, final warning, whatever. But like, they don't go like right to the lawsuit. So this had to have been like an exquisite operation to see just a bunch of dirty used bathrooms. And then, again, he like refurbished these things, but he didn't really refurbish them and he shipped them out and they had like dog hair and dust and dirt. And I'm like, this guy's like, it was like he was like sitting in his underwear one night, like watching TV, and he's like, "Hey, do you have an idea how to get rich soon? Here's what we can do. You can sell these used vacuums, and you can buy them from the dumpster at Best Buy, and then you can turn around and flip them for 80% off, and you can make this great profit." Like I know I got flamed for saying that a vacuum costs $600. I have no idea what a vacuum costs. My wife buys them. I don't know. I don't really care. It's not my thing. I don't vacuum. That's what my wife does. And I've got a Roomba that drives around and cleans up dog hair. So I apologize if I don't know what a vacuum costs. But like like buying a used vacuum just doesn't make any sense because it's already gonna be like dirty and nasty, and then you're just gonna get a new one. But what are your thoughts on that, Nevada? I mean, that was like one of the weirdest things of all time. Mm-hmm.
Well, look, let's have the weirdness scale, okay? On a scale of 1 to 100, doing a used vacuum cleaners sucking business is like a 19. Okay,
Yeah,
having an LLC that somebody has a third of an ownership in it that claims that they didn't know that they had a third of an ownership on it. That's like a 98. Okay,
yeah, it's a felony.
Like there's like
Yeah.
19 different reasons why that is just like super weird.
Yeah.
So no, this whole story gets weirder and weirder and weirder. But yeah, I had a third of the LLC, but I didn't know it. He just put my name on it. I mean, just when you think the story can't get any better. It's the gift that keeps on giving, man. It's a great story, and I can't wait for the miniseries.
Yeah, I just think Blake Corum's an absolute liar. I mean, I think that he was inheriting. This guy probably wanted to say, "Hey, I got the scheme. I'll be able to give you $2-3 grand a month. We're going to sell all these vacuums, and you don't have to do anything, but I'm going to attach your name to it. It's going to be like Blake Corum's like sucking business or something like that." And all of a sudden, the guy's like, "Ooh, I can get a little mailbox money. I don't do nothing. Sure, sign me up. Oh, and I get a third of it. Yeah, man, this thing's about to blow, man. When this blows and we sell it, you get a third of the revenue." I'll be like, I just. I think some of these kids, like, they love that money, and I'm just like, it's like this fast money. It's crazy. This is a great point, Tizzy. Appreciate you for the 5. Thanks, brother. Remember the Mozzie Smith gun incident that they hid? That's like 5 scandals in 2 years. Evil Empire type of. These guys, I mean, guys, go Google that kicker that like raped the girl, and then Taylor Wan threatened to kill her. I mean, they hide everything in Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor is an absolute cesspool of filth and dirt, all under the claws of Michigan man. Go Google that. I can't remember that kicker's name, but it was like Michigan kicker. Type in Michigan kicker, rape, and Taylor Lewan, and go read that case. I mean, that was disgusting. Like some of the stuff that these guys get away with. Mozzie Smith with the gun was absolutely crazy. I mean, when we played those guys in '04, they had a guy named Larry Harrison who literally, I swear to God, was like walking around in a trench coat flashing chicks on campus. And he got arrested like the week after we beat them. I remember because TJ was going against them all game. I was like, dude, like, you're going against like the peeping Tom dude. Like, I mean, it was like the funniest thing ever because like we whooped him, and then it was like the next week he got arrested like outside of like apartments, like in a trench coat, like flashing his like stuff. And I was like, what is wrong with these guys? But again, we've known Michigan's trash. They just try to hide it with their high and mighty stuff. But if you have a brain and you listen to BuckeyeScoop.com, you're gonna know what's really going on. But what are your thoughts about it? Is it really the evil empire up there? Because I feel like they are. They just try to hide everything.
Well, I just look. What you've got is, I mean, it's just a situation where they've been so irrelevant for so long. And think about the situation they're in. Think about the mindset. You've got a big rival. You go up in the big rivalry. We all grew up at the game and the 10-year war and blah 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 blah. They're playing against us, and it's not a rivalry anymore. We're just killing them every year. Okay, so now you get to the point where you're like, something. The ends justify the means. Whatever we have to do. Remember when Harbaugh made that famous comment after the 20 minutes, we're going to beat them or we're going to die trying, or use some sort of crazy statement like that.
Like 50, like he's 50 Cent.
Yeah,
Get rich or die trying.
Get right. Yeah, but that's kind of the situation that they're. They just feel like whatever they have to do, if that's covering up for guys, if it's threatening rape victims, if it's stealing things, if it's putting guys on in a Central Michigan outfit. I mean, they'll do whatever they have to do because they're just. I mean, they're so desperate for a bygone era, and it's just kind of sad because for me, I never liked Michigan, but I always look forward to the games, always respect them. But now it's like I'm like, man, I just can't stand these guys. I mean, this is it's hard. It's really hard to even see them. It's hard to see people wearing the shirts. it's I lose respect for anybody that's even a fan because I'm just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you guys are a bunch of total douchebags. All right, Nick Coney, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the deuce. This feels like UM as a whole is on the spectrum. I agree. Like again, I always love waking up every morning and seeing what's the next craziness that comes out. The vacuum cleaner deal, I mean the TRO, Fat Albert, their acting coach, Sharon Moore. Fat Albert's on there crying like Jim Harbaugh got like Ned Starked before the game, like they cut his head off, like as the buses are rolling away from the little crappy hotel in State College. Like it's just like the president like tweeting like bet, and all these guys like bet is like their new rallying cry. They all have to tweet bet and bet and bet, and it's truly like it's truly bizarre. I mean, Nevada, are you like that? It's like every day I'm like, why are you guys like attaching yourself to this? Like, if anything, like most universities would be like washing their hands of this and distancing, but Michigan is just like, nope, we are like, we love the one we're with, and we're gonna go. It's like we're gonna go down with the squad.
Yeah, but do they really love the one that they're with, or are they
No,
just
no, absolutely
no?
not.
There's no chance. No, there's no chance. There's nothing lovable about Jim Harbaugh. They love being top four in the country right now. They love the fact that they've got a chance at the college football playoff, a chance at the national championship. But Harbaugh, no, there's no love there. I can tell you that.
No, I totally agree. Ravia Tutu, appreciate you, my man. Thank you for the 5. Should we be concerned with the defense players that are out for the season, like Ransom and or Mike Hall? Also, is Burke back and fully healthy? Obviously, Lathan's out. I think Mike has a shot for Michigan. Denzel it's been bizarre because he comes back and he looks great, and then he's out. But Tremaine Matthews is a baller. Again, I've seen guys step in and play major roles. Again, in Michigan in '05, like, I mean, Bobby Carpenter got broken in half, but I mean, Jake Long literally folded him like a chair and broke his leg in half. And, James Laurinaitis came in and we won. Like, we played great. So, I mean, it's a game where, when there's tremendous adversity, like, we have some adversity with injuries right now. Like, there's tremendous opportunity for guys to step in and be heroes. Like Pat Elflein, was sitting there and never really played in a game. And Marcus Hall, gets tossed with Dontre and goes ballistic and does a double bird and is ejected. And then all of a sudden, Pat Elflein is like playing guard in the Michigan game, despite like playing mop up time and whatever. And Pat played great. Pat was one of the guys that when we recruited Pat Elflein, Luke Fickell was the head coach. Me and Jim Bowman worked him out at camp. We really liked him. I remember when he came to commit in Luke Fickell's office, he brought like 50 people. Like it was like every single Elflein that ever existed in the history of time was there. And I've never seen anything like it before or since. It was great. And I remember he was a 3-star kid. Urban Meyer was not excited about him at all because he was, just a little skinny white kid. He didn't have any neck tattoos or gold teeth or felony assaults. And I love Coach Meyer, but it is pretty funny how he did like Alf. And I was like, dude, this guy can play. And I remember he looked at me after practice one day because we used to work out all the guys that weren't in the games, like the young guys would work out after practice. We'd have them scrimmage, we'd have them do one-on-one drills. And Elf, I remember he went against Chris Carter, Chris Carter was a big fat D tackle, weighed like 380 pounds. We were trying to make him into nose guard. They did a one-on-one drive blocking, and Elflein, who weighed like 290, like pancaked Chris Carter, who weighed 380. And it was one of the most impressive things I ever saw on the practice field. And I looked at Urban, and he looked at me, and I was like, told you. Then we went walking in. After he saw that, he's like, this guy actually knows what he's talking about when he's evaluating an O-lineman. But, it's not all, where they're at the end of high school. It's about their mentality. Are they tough? Do they have upside? Are they athletic? Again, the mental toughness thing is something that's very underrated in college football, and he had it in spades. But Nevada, I know you don't care about the injuries because again, we got next man up. But is that where you're at with that?
Yeah, I mean, look, my information on Mike Hall is that Mike Hall, will be back. Then if this was Michigan week, he'd be going. But I don't think they want to, bring him along too quickly. Denzel will be fine. We talked about Ransom in terms of where he's going to be, and look, this is going to be a huge challenge for Ohio State. But this game to me, with this power running, this feels to me. Remember the big Iowa game when Iowa came in number 1 with Chuck Long and the famous comment. Or you're probably too young to remember this, but for
Yeah,
you
definitely.
older Buckeye fans remember what I'm talking about. They came in on a rainy night. I think it was a night game or rainy day game in Columbus, and somebody in Ohio State had said something about how they might hang 100 on us, that was the kind of the thing. And the defense just balled out. We shut down Chuck Long, played great, beat them, major upset. I feel the same way, in terms of this running challenge. I think the Ohio State defense is going to rise to the challenge of this power running game and kind of embrace it. And as you said, when the game's played in a phone booth like that, I like that because think about all you need to do is have bodies land on the ground. The guys are going to trip over them, and that's the what I'm saying. So I want that. So I think we can play a game where guys aren't getting launched. I think we can play a game where we cage rush and contain McCarthy. Look, it's been our Achilles heel. Rutgers did it against us a bit. Notre Dame did it against us a bit. So we've had some challenges with the power run, but I think we're going to step up, answer the call, and have a big effort, huge effort for Ohio State in an Ohio State win.
Yeah, I totally agree. Nick Koenig, thanks for the deuce, my man. I feel like the crime was a mission of guilt. I keep thinking, that these guys know that they're done and that, the rug's going to get yanked out from under them. Because, if Jim Harbaugh gets fired, everyone else is getting fired. The OC in DC, when they clean house, man, you don't usually retain, you might retain one coach that's familiar with the program, but 95% of the coaching staff gets let go when the head coach gets let go. So, to me, I think that those guys know that, and again, I'm not saying that they'll be out of work long because Sean Moore is, one of the top line coaches in the country. The defensive guy has been good. So, in the coaching profession, like I said, short of shooting up an orphanage, you're going to get a good job. Like Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin. I mean, just classic examples of guys that have had some very sketchy things happen and sketchy past, and they have plum jobs. And, Lane Kiffin's probably going to be the next head coach at Alabama when Nick Saban retires. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out because, Harbaugh's the one that's getting crushed right now, but these coordinators knew the same stuff, if not more than Harbaugh did. So, I don't know how they can survive. And when when coordinators get let go, usually the position coaches get let go too, or usually if, like at Penn State, they fired Mike Yurcich. So, when James Franklin's going to bring in a new OC, that OC might want his line coach. He might want his receivers coach. He might want a combination of them because, he's got to run that side of the ball and he has to have guys that he knows and trusts to get that side to operate and be coherent and be good. So, he's going to bring in his boys from wherever he's coming from to try and do the best he can. Nevada, was the crying an admission of guilt to you?
Well, it was just an admission to look. We've talked about how crazy this entire situation. So what's dumber and more vapid and just stupid than crying over Jim Harbaugh? So naturally he cried. I mean, so just ask yourself, what is the dumbest thing that they could ever do? And they'll do it. That's what they've been doing this entire time. And I mean, for Michigan, I love reading their Michigan board. Somebody sent me a screenshot of one of their Michigan boards, and they're like, well, they've got a whole thing planned for the Big Ten championship game when Tony Petitti has to hand them the trophy. And it's like, man, I love that they're thinking about, first of all, I wish that was true, even though I know the thing is nonsense. But like guys, for Michigan right now, Michigan it's a program that's on its last gasp. And, they say that, cage animals are most dangerous when they're backed in a corner when they're there. But for these guys, it's like the last gasp of a dying man. And we're all just watching it in real time. And so, I mean, Sharon Moore cry me another river this week. I just want to see what they do this week to kind of up the ante from last week. You know what I'm saying? Like that. They'll probably have wristbands or headbands that say free Harbaugh or something like that. I mean, they're gonna do something stupid because they're Michigan and they always do stupid stuff.
Free Stallions. Get a Free Stallions headband.
Exactly. But spell it right with one L, man. One L.
That'd be perfect. Willie Williams. I know this isn't the Willie Williams. Willie Williams, that's a 2004 recruiting flashback. So if you guys want the funniest story in the history of recruiting, go look that one up. Willie Williams at the University of Miami. Thank you for the 10, brother. Appreciate you. I think the worst kind of cheating is a cheap shot bounty hunting questions, such as Georgia on Marvin Harrison Jr. and Alabama on Jayden Daniels. Scummy, in my opinion. Your thoughts? Here's the thing. I don't know. I think that the Georgia hit was kind of a bang bang hit. Again, I'm not condoning it. Obviously, Marvin, that should have been targeting. It should have been a first down. It cost us the game. Cost us our best player. But that didn't seem like it was overly dirty. I think football is tough. It's tougher than it's ever been because there's so much more regulation and safety than there was even when I played. There was no targeting. You could tee off on guys, and there's some hits I threw on reverses where I blindside blocked guys, led with the crown of my helmet. I didn't throw out of the game immediately. I mean, it was. I mean, it's and honestly, it's a favorite play of my entire career. 'Cause I absolutely killed a guy from Oklahoma State on a reverse to Ted Ginn, and it looked great on film. It looked great on TV. It was just fantastic. It felt amazing because I just absolutely killed the guy. But I don't know. The Alabama on Jaden Daniels. Again, I'm sure that there's guys want to knock guys out and guys want to hit guys hard, but I don't know if they have like organized bounty stuff. But I think that like the signal stealing to me is worse, just because you have you literally can't run a play. Again, like when you're in practice and the defense knows what the offense is running, and then they script it so it's like a perfect call. Like that sucks. So that's why usually coaches, when you like if Tom Herman was scripting offense and he would want to work with Luke Fickle, they would script stuff, and there'd be times where it was like, you call it on one side, you call on the other, and just try to match stuff. And then there's other times where it's like, hey, Luke, we want to see, cover 3 on this play. Can you run cover 3 so that we can get this look? And then we'd flip it around the other way for Luke, and he'd say, hey, I got to see the boundary counter play that Wisconsin runs. So we'd run like plays for them, and they'd run plays for us, so you could get certain looks. But when you do that, it's kind of like orchestrating. You know exactly what the result should be. But in a game, like when you're picking the signals, man, it is like if they know exactly where you're running, it's impossible to be efficient or do anything. But what do you think, Nevada? Is bounty hunting worse than sign stealing?
Well, I think what was interesting, and this was something that kind of went with escaped a lot of notice in that Big Ten letter to Michigan, was they cited the player safety issue as one of the concerns for this whole stealing thing, because as you mentioned, when the other team knows what's coming or where the play's
Sure.
going or what's going on, that creates a liability, potential liability, a potential safety issue for the players. And I think that was something that really kind of resonated with the commissioner and why he stepped in terms of doing it. I'm asked for bounty hunting, like whether it was intentional bounty or not. Last year's the Georgia game where they threw the flag on the Marvin Harrison hit, that is exactly the kind of hits they're trying to legislate out of the game. They threw the flag, and then they pick it up and rule no. I will go to my grave not understanding any of that. That was clear targeting. That should have been first goal from the 1 yard line. And ultimately, did it cost us the game? In my opinion, it did. There's absolutely no question about it.
Yeah.
But such is life. But it was bad.
Yeah, I totally agree. Don Schaefer, thank you for the 10. Again, this is always going to be interesting. So we heard the cheaters up north poster said Central Michigan invited Stallions to the Michigan State game, gave him the uniform and pass. Doesn't that beg the question, who, and did they know what he was set up from their time at that team? Clearly Connor reached out to somebody on the staff and said, hey, I want to get the signs. I want to practice. I can help you guys. Get me a pass. Now, the way you would do that is, again, like I've had a field pass when I was a coach. They check them like at the beginning of the game, but after that, it's not much. So it's like, if someone really, if you said, Kirk, I will give you $1 billion to get somebody down on the field with a field pass, it's not that hard to do. I mean, you meet a guy at the gate where they come in, you slip them your field pass. You're already been down there. You can go down. They've already seen you. They've already seen you down on the field. If you're like Ryan Day doesn't have to have a field pass on his belt because everybody knows who Ryan Day is. I mean, he's already supposed to be there. Quinn Temple, like some of these guys that are like, they're down there. All of the security guys know who they are. Like they don't have to have a field pass. So if you're like a guy who knows the security guys, I mean, it's not really that hard to do. So I'm just saying, like to me, it would take literally no trickiness to get this done. And then I think that, you just, hey, I'll bring you another sweat jacket and a hat, and then you'll blend right in, even though you're not gonna have the same shoes on. That was the one thing they didn't think to like match the shoes, but they're probably like, well, no one will ever notice because you're just some intern. So kind of is what it is. But what are your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Well, they're presenting that like that's a thing, like that because he was invited or whatever, that somehow mitigates the damage or minimizes the impact, or the fact that Jim Harbaugh didn't know about it. I mean, guys, we're left with the fact that this is a full-time Michigan employee that is leaving the team the night before a game and going to another place, impersonating a coach and recording other team signals. I mean, you just can't. It doesn't matter how we got. Do I believe their story about how now? The next thing they're gonna say was like a honey trap that he was just invited by some chick and he walked by and they drugged him and threw him in the outfit and put him on the sideline or whatever it is. But like, it makes no difference. It's like it doesn't make any difference. It's irrelevant to the facts at hand, and certainly it's irrelevant to they keep saying, well, Jim Harbaugh didn't know. It doesn't matter whether he knew. If he didn't know, it's lack of institutional control. If he did know, we all know how bad it is. So there's just no escaping how bad it is because it's just terrible.
No, I totally agree. J Matt, appreciate the 5. Thank you, my man. You think the Big Ten refs will start to call games to hurt Michigan? Because see, that is something that is, like, I mean, in the realm of possibility, again, like, I don't put anything past anybody, like, ever. Like, I mean, I watch, and again, I'm not saying things are fixed, but sometimes you watch games, you'll just be like, man, the Kansas City Chiefs sure get away with a lot of holds and a lot of stuff that no other team gets away with, or the right tackle jumps every play, or like sometimes things seem a little sketchy and a little slanted, and that ran across my mind. Like when I talked to Zach Smith, and he's like, something the Big Ten could do is just tell the officials, hey, we don't want Michigan in the Big Ten title game. Like we're tired of their crap. And now is that absolutely crazy? Yes. Could they ever say that out loud? No. Whatever, again, this isn't like, we're like they're fixing the game or anything, but a call here, a call there goes one way or the other. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I watched that Tim Donahue thing, man. And again, these referees are held to a very high standard. And I know that sometimes the officiating is absolutely trash, but like, they get graded on every game. They get video reviewed on every game. So, when there's a lot of sketchy stuff going on, like, these guys in the world of gambling and U.S. integrity and that type of thing, man, it's hard to like do that type of stuff. But, you call another holding call. I mean, again, you'll watch games. You'll say, well, that's a hold, or that's not a hold, or that's a chintzy call, or that's a good call. Like, like it could happen. Again, I mean, it sounds crazy, but what are your thoughts on that, Nevada? I mean, you've lived in the Vegas world longer than anybody on the show. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, first of all, I'd love that to be true. I'd love that to happen. I'd love that to be a thing. There's been times when I felt like teams or referees were slanted against one team or another. So I know that's a thing. But if the Big Ten was going to do it, it might have wanted to start it last weekend in Happy Valley. And I thought Michigan was the benefactor of many questionable calls in that game. So, if they were doing it, they didn't do it well because they literally were calling the penalties on the wrong team and screwing the wrong guys. Because I thought Penn State got hosed a bunch of times on Saturday. So maybe if they're going to start, they need to get it going here pretty quickly.
Yeah, I totally agree. Brian, thanks for the 5, my man. Wouldn't you see more injuries as evidence when playing Michigan then? You don't. Wouldn't you see more injuries as evidence when playing Michigan? I'm trying to figure out the question. Nevada, do you get this? Wouldn't you see more injuries as good?
I think what he's speaking to is, I think what he's saying is the whole player safety issue that was raised by Petiti. If that was really true, then wouldn't more players be getting injured? Mm-hmm. I just don't have any stats on that. I don't have any way. Here's what I can give you. I can give you their stats against the spread during the time since Connor Stallions they were covering like 18-5 or something like that. I can tell you their second half spreads, they were something like 20-2. That's what I can give you. The number of players injured, I'm not sure how I'd quantify that or go for that particular stat. So maybe it has, maybe it hasn't, maybe it's just a concern, maybe it's just one of those kind of ghosts that people are worried about. But look, in football right now, the biggest thing that's hanging over football, like the sword of Damocles, is the concussion issue. And that's why they protect the NFL quarterback so much. That's why they call targeting so much. That's why they're trying to take the big hits out of the game, because that literally could end the game of football. And I feel like they were close there for a while when they were having the movie with Will I Punched Chris Rock at the Oscars, Smith doing that one thing where he was playing the doctor that was doing the CTE thing. And, like, I think that they were kind of on the edge, and they've kind of pulled it back from that right now. People aren't talking about that a lot. They're scared about it. And it's the reason why so many kids aren't playing youth football right now. I mean, youth football participation right now is down dramatically. It is becoming
it's crazy.
it's almost exclusively a game right now where people with with it, you hate to skew it economically, but people with less money are really the people that are playing the
Yeah.
game because it's kind of
Yeah.
an economic way out of their situation. But for other people, those parents are not letting their kids play football, and that's a profound change, and that all goes to injury, head, concussion. So I think that they're wise to be careful about anything that could potentially aggravate that.
Well, I just think that, again, like I didn't play football till eighth grade because, my dad did not want me to play till eighth or ninth grade because he started playing in like second grade. By the time he was in ninth grade, he'd had, surgeries and elbows and knees and things beat up. And he's like, this is a lot of wear and tear on your body. And, modern football, if you wait till eighth grade, you're going to be I was way behind. So I had to learn, I didn't know anything about football, anything about technique. I mean, I was literally square one the year before high school, which is crazy when you think about it. But yeah, it is way down. I think that, again, there's a lot of head trauma issues and that type of thing, which is interesting because like hockey has more concussions than football, but it doesn't get the rap that football seems to. But I think the thing about hockey is there's not as much contact during practice. Like in football, if you're a lineman, you hit every day. You're getting hit in the head every day. So that adds up. Those little blows to the head. So I don't know. I just think that it's going to be interesting to see what the future of football looks like. And I think that, the protecting of the quarterback is the number one issue that the NFL deals with because, when you watch the New York Giants, and again, Daniel Jones got hurt, Tyrod Taylor got hurt, they're starting a guy who's, a rookie, and their season's over. So if a team loses their superstar quarterback, unless there's some miracle worker like Josh Dobbs on the sideline, usually the season's over if that guy gets hurt. So you don't want him to get hit low. You don't want him to get hit head hunting. And, again, it's to the point now where you can't even sack a guy and put your weight on him without it being roughing the passer. So it's reached the point of craziness. But again, the league is about making money and people want to see Pat Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts on Monday night. They don't want to see, whoever the two backups are, Chad, he was Chad Henne last year with the Chiefs. So they don't want to see that game. They want to see the two superstars, and the quarterbacks drive the bus in college football and in pro football. No, so it's pretty good. You want to wrap this thing up? What else you got, Nevada? Let's wrap this thing up real quick.
Yeah, no, I just think oh man, Ohio State's figuring it out. They're peaking at just the right time. That's what you want. You look for a build. You look for a team to be improving. You look for a team to be kind of peaking at this time, and they're doing it. So, as an Ohio State fan, it's really it's a great time because we're playing our best football. We're going to go into Ann Arbor as sharp as we've ever been, and we'll let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited about it. I think it's going to be fantastic. With that being said, appreciate you guys as always. Thank you guys for the super chats. Thank you for tuning in every night. As always, these are awesome shows. They've been growing like crazy. So thank you. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like on your way out the door. We've got about 300 likes, about 1,200 of you. Hit that like button. That's huge for the episode. As always, we appreciate these. Going every night at 7 o'clock. We'll have another one going tomorrow. Again, thank you so much. If you enjoyed this, please also shout out where you guys are watching from. And give me your prediction for this week. Let's see if we get an early prediction for the Minnesota game. Again, not a lot of excitement, but it's going to be a big one. But I just really appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I'm going to talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.